Okay, we're here with school board candidate Esther Hickman. Esther, thanks so much for joining us. And do you want to just give a background about yourself and why you're running for school board?
So my name is Esther Hickman, and I grew up in the school district. I went to Malibu schools, K through 8, and then to Santa Monica High School. And I graduated in 1991. And I then went to UCLA. And I went to the East Coast for 17 years and came back in the last 7 years. And I had to move back to Santa Monica when I had a baby, because I had to bring her back to these schools. So I love Santa Monica. I love this community. These schools are excellent. They're great. And I just have a passion to realize their full potential and make them even better.
Great, thanks so much. So I'm going to start out with asking you about something from your questionnaire. You indicated that you at first supported the recall efforts for 3 school board members last year because they were letting our kids down. And so can you specify what those 3 members, Lori Lieberman, Maria Leon Vasquez, and John Keene, did that rose to the level of necessitating a recall? And then as a part 2 of that, what happened during the course of the recall campaign that ultimately led you to be very glad to hear that it was dropped?
So I think that, like, I think it was a very, very, very difficult and stressful time for so many people and so many parents. And there was so much desperation in the community. And I don't think it's really, I don't think it was targeting those 3 people as much as just an expression of frustration. And it was also recall, it was like the flavor of the month, right? It was happening throughout our state. And there were many organizations not organizations, but parent groups already that had started this process for their school boards. And there was a lot of cross-pollination with parents in different districts that had already created infrastructures to support others to start this process. So it's unfortunate that it was, that these board members were personally attacked and kind of the scapegoats for a parent process. And so ultimately, it served its purpose for the parents that felt like, they got their kids back in school and got a little bit more of the attention that they wanted. And so, we're here now, it's 2022 and there's like an election. And so we're going to allow the democratic process to take place.
Got it, thanks. Okay, let's go to Patricia.
Okay, I'm going to ask the class size question first, just on a quick answer. How big should classrooms in elementary, middle, and high school be? Do you have an ideal number of students?
So I think that a lot of the proven studies often say 20, like 20 is the magic number.
In high school, middle school, elementary?
In general, and professionals have written that in elementary school, small class sizes are especially important.
Okay, so now pre-pandemic, because I have not been in the school since the pandemic, but pre-pandemic, the class sizes were at least a third smaller than they were when you were in school. And the class sizes, the loading formula when you were in school was 40 students, certainly in high school. I think it was 35 in upper elementary. And then have you noticed a difference in outcome between when you were in school and more recent outcomes with the smaller class sizes?
Well, I think this goes back to the equity thing. So that might have been the practice. Like that might have been what was part of SMUSD's standards. But I never had large class sizes. So I went to school in Malibu, and we had something called the pod, where they had like 4 professionals for all of us. So I always was privileged in that I always got that one to like that special teacher student relationship. So I don't think it's so my personal experience, and you know, they used to track children then. So we were already tracked by the time we were in 2nd or 3rd grade, and got to carry that small class size all the way through high school. So
And you didn't have it in high school because you went to Santa Monica High School.
right.
And there weren't any small class. There were, you know, there might have been Latin, might have been a small class, but there weren't in general small classes, math, history, all the other classes.
So even the AP classes, well, they had like 35 kids, probably the AP classes at that time, right?
They tried to, yeah.
So how about this? Would I have benefited from smaller class sizes? I think I would have. And so I think that it's something that it's not, you know, something I'm making up. It's something that could, I know there were kids, like, for example, right now, today, I am so lucky my child is an Edison, and there are only 21 kindergartens in that classroom. And it's, I mean, I think everybody feels like they've died and gone to heaven when they go to that campus and that experience. And we have one teacher aide and the teacher for 21 kids. And that is awesome. Now, there are other elementary schools that are more crowded in our district that have 35 kids for that teacher. And that's not equitable. Like, I'm getting so much of a better experience for my child because I was emailing. I think at one point I sent them 40 emails in a row for 2 years, you know, to get into that school. So, so it's more about giving everybody, like, you know, serving everybody the best equitably across the board.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for challenging me on that as well.
Thank you both. Let's go to Melissa.
Hi, Esther. It's nice to meet you. I have a question about your relevant experience. And you know, first off, as you know, as a parent in the district myself, I definitely appreciate and respect the important perspective that being a very active parent, you know, in the district provides. But the board does really play an important policy making function and sort of a political function, and you know, lobbying other electeds and getting things for the district. And so I just wanted to hear more about your experience in the policy arena that helps prepare you for the policy function of the board.
Yes, I love that question because I'm sure you can imagine I've asked myself this question. You know, I when I ran 2 years ago, I really was pushed into this and was just desperate as an alum to hear that things, you know, it's a national crisis. It's not our schools. It's nationally public schools are suffering. So anyway, so I've asked myself that question many times. So there are so many parents in the district that are so much more qualified to do this on paper. And certainly the board, very accomplished, and I really actually admire them. You probably don't believe me, but it's actually true. I really respect and admire their skill sets. And so what can I bring to the table? Well, I operate in a culture of collaboration. And while I'm just a realtor, I work with people, and I know how to collaborate, and I know how to respect people. And my biggest passion in life is supporting and facilitating results. And I'm not always, I don't know answers all the time, but I know who to go to. And I think as a board member, the way I would lead is really through my talents of supporting others and empowering others and facilitating others and getting the right information from others. And I'm also not particularly like dumb and oblivious to a lot of the things that are going on, but I don't always have the articulation or the academic confidence or skills in order to, it's very visceral for me, but that's okay because we have so many authorities that the district pays for, like on staff, and we have the city, and we have parents who are phenomenally intelligent and accomplished to look to. So I feel it's in my humility that I would be able to compensate for where I lack, and I would learn and grow. And the whole reason for doing this is that it's an impossible job, and no one is ever going to be popular with everybody. And that's okay, because it's really, to serve through guiding principles.
Thanks, Esther.
No, thank you.
Okay, let's go to Dan.
Hi, Esther. Great to meet you. I'm Dan. Quick clarifying question on your questionnaire, because I wasn't entirely sure based on the answer. Are you supportive of district elections for USD Board of Education?
Yes, I am supportive of district elections. I think, so this is something coming down from the state. It wasn't made up as a Santa Monica thing. So I do support that we have district elections for school districts. This is something coming down from the state that they want to give districts to have the opportunity to adopt. And I think it's in theory, it's great to have neighborhood representation. What I was not thrilled about is what a lot of people criticized is the wonky maps. But the wonky maps can be, my understanding is that the person who was available to do the maps just had like a tiny window of time. And so it was just kind of like put together and set forth. But that's something that as a community, we could collaborate on. And as a community, we could determine what are the best maps. And I think, at-large elections are so incredibly expensive. But I think there are some leaders in the community that might step up to serve and might be more drawn to serve if they knew that they could focus on a neighborhood of constituents and represent a neighborhood. So, and there's a million reasons why I support it, but anyways.
Just a quick follow on, if I could, John. Esther, are you concerned about cracking the Latinx community and subsuming them into majority white districts?
No, I'm not concerned about that. I'm half Latin, and I'm first generation, and I believe that our communities are going to come together and choose who they feel would best represent them.
Thanks.
Thanks. Let's go to Isabel.
Hi, Esther. So I have just a very straightforward. You said in your questionnaire you think our schools are fantastic, but with just a few tweaks, they could be phenomenal. So what are the tweaks? What are the changes you would like to make in the schools to make them better?
Thank you. So the small class sizes, I'm very passionate about that because I think it's one of the easiest ways to bring equity across the board to all of our students. And it would address so much of, special needs, people who are just excelling beyond belief, and those who are marginalized would get attention, behavioral issues. I mean, there's just numerous. So, okay, we all know I'm passionate about small class sizes. And I think, again, I'm so lucky to be at a campus like Edison that is brand new and pristine, right? And it's just, there has to be a way to, again, it's an impossible mission that the school board is trying to do, which is they're trying to bring all of our classrooms to 21st century standards, and they have a finite amount of bond money, and they have to prioritize, and they have to keep the schools open while they're building. So it's an impossible mission, but there has to be a way to make it more equitable. And, you know, a lot of people criticize the Save the History Building campaign as one of like nostalgia and being out of touch and not wanting our kids to have 21st century learning. But that was the kind of the propaganda. But all of the notes that were written to the school board were really focused on, can you please focus on our campuses that are rotting, the bathrooms that aren't accessible, and the campuses are in disrepair, and at least fix them along the way with the money while you move forward with your projects. And perfect example is John Muir closing. That was just, and these things happen. It's not anybody's fault when unsafe environments happen, but it's just like there has to be a little bit more of an equitable approach to make sure that certain schools aren't suffering while others are in like utopian heaven. So that's so the construction is very distracting to students and learning. So that's it might seem to me, it's like a tweak just in approach to kind of see if there's a way to layer very complex. And the other tweak is just a culture of collaboration. It's, again, an impossible job that the school board has to have to support the administration and get all of these very complicated things done. But there has to be a way to collaborate with everybody in the community and maybe just listen. But I think just more of a culture of kindness and understanding to the greater community, and somehow reconciling this so that everybody who are shareholders, the teachers and the parents and the families and the greater community, all feel fully appreciated and invested into having great schools.
Thank you. Patricia, do you have another one?
I do. I want, we have a nationwide and a local teacher shortage. We have horribly expensive housing in which new teachers can't come into our community. What would you do to hire and retain top quality teachers?
Yeah, it's so complicated. And well, one, money, right? Money has to be found to make these things work, and budgets have to be reimagined, because there is a teacher shortage and there is a quality teacher shortage, and retention is everything. And I think that goes down to the culture, like, is the leadership, I often hear, and I know that there's teachers that are thrilled with the leadership, and then there's teachers that feel unsupported and in a hostile environment. And so we have to recognize the diversity in those groups. And it kind of goes back to the small class sizes, like that student teacher relationship. So who are the people that are supporting those individuals for retention? So there's a cultural aspect to why somebody would stay teaching in our schools. And then there's the practical financial. I am thrilled that they got a 10% raise, like thrilled beyond belief. And so money helps. And then we go into the housing problem. So I'm not running for rent control board and for planning or, that. I believe in rent control. I believe in affordable housing. I believe that affordable housing should be bigger and have parking. And doesn't necessarily have to be done in the most economically productive land in Santa Monica. But I believe in those concepts, and I believe in state subsidies. And so I do believe in state housing, state, funded housing subsidies. And I know we can do better in this area. And I would, maybe one day I will have a chance to come to the table, have a seat at the table and figure this out, because it is a crisis and our school district specifically has to deal with it.
Okay, thanks so much. And that's going to be the last question since we're a little bit over time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions, and we'll look forward to having you at the next event. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I would
John,
welcome
is there
any
any way possible we could let Raina get a quick question? It has to be quick and a quick answer in. I know that you're trying to keep it on time, but I'd rather.
Okay, go ahead.
possible.
Let's just do
Thank
it.
you
Go
so
ahead.
much.
Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Patricia. So I'll try and be quick. And you spoke about kindness and compassion, and I really, really appreciate that. With our diversity and inclusion committee here, we put together an actual civility pledge about how people in general should be treated, but definitely, like, very specifically people from underrepresented communities. Could you briefly, because there's not a lot of time, speak to the value of civil discourse, how you will be an advocate of that in dealing with not just your fellow board, but the entire community, the children, the parents, and especially those from underrepresented communities who definitely feel a sense of sometimes lack of civility just because of their diversity.
Yeah, it's a very real problem. I can't answer this question quickly, but I'm happy to email you after. But just the short answer is, it goes back to that little tweak of culture, and it needs to come all the way from the top down and be disseminated down. And we need to learn. I love all of the things that bring us together. And civil, do you call it discord? Civil discord is
Discourse.
civil discourse is so healthy and productive when it's done in a space that's safe and collaborative, and with everybody wanting to learn more from one another. But I also I want to write to you more, because I feel like here in Santa Monica, it's not only about groups that are marginalized. I'd like to also put in the classism thing that happens here in Santa Monica. And so again, we need to keep on. I feel like that's another reason I feel so passionate about small class sizes. It's the one powerful, equitable thing that we can do for all of our kids. Like, think about a classroom where there are some weird dynamics happening. In a small class size, a teacher could actually facilitate healing, and that is just not possible in a large class size. And are some marginalized groups that don't have strong parent advocates to, call Edison compulsively for 40, for 2 years to get in. So I do feel very passionate about what you're talking about. I'd love to take it offline.
Great. Thanks for the question, Raina, and thanks for your responses this evening, Esther. We'll be in touch soon. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks so much. Thank you.